Call to order this regular Board of Directors meeting for the Siloam Springs Board of Directors, December 5th, 2023. Roll call.
Blair. Smiley.
Here.
Wiles. Hunt.
Here.
Rissler.
Here.
Allen.
Here.
Carroll.
Here.
At this time, you all... Thank you, Ken. If you all will still stand with, or please stand with me as Director Carroll leads us in prayer. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Father, we are thankful to be able to be here this evening during this holiday season. And we do get to conduct business, but we also can be in remembrance of all that you have done, all that you have given, the abilities that lie within us that we can utilize for your service. And in all these things, Father, may our living testimony proclaim Jesus Christ. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask that anyone that has an electronic device, please silence that so we don't have interruptions during the meeting. And thank you very much. I appreciate that. The next thing before we move into our public input time is I have a couple of things that I would like to, some recognitions I would like to make. First of all, we have one of our scout troops, Troop 3766, is here with us this evening. And gentlemen, would you all please stand? Give them a hand. Thank you all very much for being here. These young men are here to observe our board meeting and to kind of see how city government works. And a part of that is they are earning a merit badge for being here and involved in that. So thank you, gentlemen, and congratulations. And with that, I would like to move on to ask Chief Kreiner to come forward. This past week, we had some award recipients in our fire department, and I asked him if he would have some of those guys here tonight, and let's recognize them. So, Chief Kreiner.
Thank you, Mayor and Board. Jeremy Kreiner, Fire Chief. So we've got a few of us here tonight. Last Friday, as you said, we had the opportunity to do our annual awards banquet and recognize some of our men and women for the works that they've done over the course of this past year. This is my 7th year that I've been able to do this as the fire chief, and I can tell you it gets better every single year. It's much more powerful and I think impactful to recognize them for what they do. So I'll start over here on the right. So this is firefighter David Bethay. He's on B platoon, worked at Station 1. He won our Chief's Choice Award, and that's given out by somebody of my choosing. And I gave it to David for a number of different reasons, and I think that you will see a lot of him over the next several decades as he finishes off his career here in Siloam Springs. He's doing great works for us, and we certainly appreciate him. To my immediate right is firefighter Landon Cottrell. He works on A platoon at Station 3, and he won our Firefighter of the Year award. And so that is open to any member of our department for works that are above and beyond. And so he was nominated by multiple individuals for all the good things that he's done. So congrats on that, Landon. To my left is Jordan Littrell. He also is on A platoon. He works at Station 3 as well, and he won the Paramedic of the Year. So that's open to any paramedic that we have on the department. And you know, he was nominated again by multiple individuals as well, and was really listed as a mentor and someone who is true to a true advocate for patient care for the members of our community. So good job, Jordan. Captain Josh Spencer is here to my left. He is the captain of Station 1 on C platoon, and he actually won 2 awards tonight, or Friday. The first one was a Meritorious Service Award, and that's given out to any member of the department who takes on projects or does things that outside of their normal scope to further the fire department. He's done numerous things for our department over the last year, and so he was awarded the Meritorious Service Award for that. And then second, his company, so he's the captain in charge of the crew at Fire Station 1 on C Platoon, and their company won Company of the Year. And so out of all of our fire stations on all of our shifts, their company rose above the rest to earn that award, and so we're just thankful for that as well. So with that, those are the members that I have here today. So.
Before y'all sit down,
Bring it in, bring it in.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, gentlemen, for your service to our community. We appreciate it very much. We look forward to seeing you for a lot of years. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And with that, we will move into our public input time. At this time, if there is anyone that would like to address the board on a matter that is not on our regular agenda, you may come forward to the podium. You will have 3 minutes, and please state your name and address when you come up. So is there anyone here that would like to address the board?
Tyler Carroll, 102 South Carl, here in Siloam Springs. I just had a request, I guess, as a citizen, wondering if it would be a good time to have some sort of workshop where the public and the board and the staff can understand kind of how the power structure works in town, like who's in charge of who speaks over to who. I know we are a city administrator form of government, so the city administrator answers to the board answers to the citizens. We know how that works, but it seems to be lately in a few meetings, particularly some of the recent pre-agenda meetings, that there has been some confusion as to who's in charge of who. And I would love to hear more about that. Might be a great time for a workshop just to refresh everybody. That's my request. Thanks.
Thank you, Tyler. Is there anyone else?
Blake Jones, Siloam Springs. So with great pleasure, I continue to expose all of you. Since the kids are here, I try to keep it PG. Under cloud, Siloam Springs officer quits. Has Siloam Springs officer resigned a year after he was suspended and placed on probation for having inappropriate exchanges with a confidential informant. Captain Derek Spicer, a spokesman for the Siloam Springs Police Department, on Friday confirmed Michael Anderson's resignation. Siloam Springs Police were talking with Benton County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and both discovered some credibility issues with Anderson's cases. We seem to have a lot of credibility issues here, don't we? Anderson resigned in lieu of being terminated. For what he did, we're not going to prosecute him or terminate him. We'll just let him go somewhere else so he can do this to other people. Anderson was suspended without pay for 5 days and was moved to the traffic department. Conversations between Anderson and a female informant were placed on the What's Up Siloam Facebook page. According to documents, the conversations were on his city-owned cell phone. An internal investigation concluded the information received was true and led to the discovery of additional inappropriate conversations with females used for narcotics criminal information. Nude photographs of a woman not related to any investigation were found on his city-owned cell phone. He was also found in violation of the cell phones and police department policy. His resignation came after Reed, Deputy Public Defender, filed a motion seeking more information about Anderson's work as a police officer. The motion also accused Anderson of committing inappropriate acts. Reed's motion claims Anderson admitting to turning off his audio against police policy during detentions and arrests and admitted to omitting material information from police reports. As you all know, we have a frequency of doing that around here too. The motion claims Anderson has been accused of planting evidence by multiple sources, including former criminal informants, to obtain probable cause to search, detain, and arrest. So those people, innocent families, they can't have Thanksgiving and Christmas like you do. They got to serve in prison. And then Anderson helped on August 28 procure and execute a search warrant against a former confidential informant identified only as GF in retaliation for her denying his sexual advances and reporting his inappropriate behavior. So I guess if you don't have sex with the officers now, he jails you. And during the investigation regarding inappropriate communications with a confidential informant, Anderson informed his then police chief, which was Gilbert, and Gilbert allowed him just to be suspended for 5 days. We don't terminate that kind of behavior. We allow it to proceed. So without further ado, I'd just like to say I recognize all of you and thank you for all the good work you're doing here at the Siloam PD and the city.
Is there anyone else? If not, we will then move on to see if there's anyone here that would like to address the board on an item that is on our consent agenda tonight. If there is not, I will. So next is our consent agenda. Item A, regular meeting minutes, November 21, 2023. Item B, pre-agenda meeting minutes, November 29, 2023. Item C, revised ground lease, airport, Upward Investment, LLC. Item D, grant acceptance, Grand River Dam Authority, Community Development Grant, $15,000. Directors, is there anything that you would like to have pulled from the consent agenda for separate discussion? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Next is contracts and approvals. The first item, item E, the staff has requested that we table this item until they have time to review and bring further information to this board. So we would ask that you all agree that we are tabling that. Do I see an affirmative nod of heads that, okay, then this item will be tabled until at such time that you can get information together to bring back to us. Is that correct?
That is correct. Staff and myself are reviewing what we can do to shorten that scope, reduce it, and we'll bring something back to the board as soon as possible.
Thank you very much. Next is item F, joint use agreement, Siloam Springs School District. Siloam Springs High School tennis courts, $135,973. Travis, are you here tonight? Or no? Looks like Jason is going to do this.
Jason Davis, Public Service Director, City of Siloam. So basically what this is doing, from what I've gathered with Travis, he brought this back in the summer and you guys approved an amendment, a budget amendment for the money. And this is just the agreement for the Siloam Springs School District and the City of Siloam on the pickleball courts and getting those done and moving the tennis courts to I guess there's 2 tennis courts at Bob Henry Park, and there's 4 temporary pickleball courts there. So this will end up giving us dedicated tennis courts and 6 permanent pickleball courts in the rec center. So
Thank you, sir. So directors, any questions for Jason? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this joint use agreement? If not, directors, do I have a motion to approve this agreement between the Siloam Springs School District and the City of Siloam Springs?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll,
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
And use minor subdivisions. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam. Additional comments since the second reading, and staff and the Planning Commission are still recommending approval.
There being none, directors, do I have a motion to place ordinance 23-25 on its third reading, suspending the rules, reading by title only?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance 23-25, an ordinance amending Chapter 54 of the Municipal Code with respect to plating and minor subdivision review.
Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 23-25?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Ordinance 2325 is adopted. Next item is item H, ordinance 23-26, third reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from G1 to I1, 2200 block of South Lincoln Street. Ben?
Yes, thank you again, Madam Mayor. Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. This is the rezoning from GI to I1, General Institutional to Industrial for the future utility campus. This third reading, we have not received any comments since last reading, and Planning Commission staff are still recommending approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Directors? Any questions or comments for Ben? Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 23-26? There is not. Directors, do I have a motion to approve to place ordinance 23-26 on its third reading, suspending the rules, reading title only?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 23-26, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from GI to I1, property located at the 2200 block of South Lincoln Street.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 23-26?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Ordinance 23-26 is adopted. Next, item I, ordinance 23-29, third reading, amending section 102-21 of the City Municipal Code, rezoning from R2H1 to C2H1, the 500 block of South Britt Street. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Megan Thomas, Planner 1. As she stated, this is the final reading for a rezoning request for property located at the 500 block of South Britt Street. They are requesting to rezone the property from R2 residential medium to C2 roadway commercial. Staff has not received any new phone calls or correspondence on this request since the last reading, and staff is still recommending approval of the request. Staff is available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Directors, comments or questions? There being none, anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 23-29? There is not. Directors, do I have a motion to place ordinance 23-29 on its third reading, suspending rules, reading by title only?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 23-29, an ordinance amending section 102-21 of the Siloam Springs Municipal Code, city zoning map, rezoning from R2 to C2, property located at the 500 block of South Britt Street, and amending the future land use map of the Siloam Springs 2040 Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 23-29?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Ordinance 23-29 is adopted. Next, item J, ordinance 23-30, second reading, annexation of 114.43 acres, the 2700 East Block of Keck Road. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Megan Thomas, Planner 1 again. This is the second reading for annexation request for properties located at the 2700 East Block of Keck Road. As a reminder, the request is to annex 114.43 acres into the city, with 39.76 acres to be zoned R2 residential medium and 74.67 acres to be zoned PD planned development. The planned development, as a reminder, will house townhomes and have a single-family subdivision within it and a park area. Staff has not received any phone calls or correspondence from the public on this request since the last reading, and staff is still recommending approval of the request. Also, as a reminder, at the last meeting, the applicant did request at this meeting to have the second and third readings combined for this, so just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Directors, comments or questions? Anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 23-30? There being none, do I have a motion to place ordinance 23-30 on its second and third readings, suspending the rules, reading title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Abstain.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 23-30, an ordinance accepting the annexation of certain territory at the 2700 East Block of Keck Road to the city of Siloam Springs, Arkansas, and assigning the same to award.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to adopt ordinance 23-30?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Roll call.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Abstain.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Ordinance 23-30 is adopted. Next is item K, ordinance 23-31, first reading, amending City Municipal Code, Chapter 22 and Chapter 102, short-term rentals. Ben?
Yes, thank you again, Madam Mayor, members of the board. First off, I wanted to alert the board that the memo was inadvertently switched from the February review of the ordinance, and so there might have been reference to 64 unit. That's because that was from the previous memo. So we will get that corrected for the second reading, so we apologize for that error. It was just a swap of the wrong memo. But getting into these particulars of the ordinance you're considering this evening, as I was saying earlier, this is a follow-up ordinance, the one that we did present earlier this year on the short-term rentals. And we did hold a workshop with you over the summer to discuss potentially bringing this back before the board. And so we have done that, looking at primarily making changes to Chapter 22 of the code rather than Chapter 102. The original ordinance was primarily a zoning issue. This is now looking more into the business code. It's a different chapter of our code book. But what you're seeing on slide here is the little bit of change that we are making to the zoning code, and that's adding some definitions. We have one for hotel motel listed there, as well as amending the definition of bed and breakfast to not catch up short-term rentals within that particular use unit. Those are going to be more like a hotel type situation rather than a short-term rental. So that's what the reason for those code definition changes. So looking into Chapter 22 in particular, the business code, we did create a purpose section for the regulations and added the application process. The permits will not run with the land, and the approvals will be done administratively through the planning division. We are requiring that once those approvals are done, that they would be required to put a sign up at the property, so anyone interested in what's going on next door to them, they can inquire or if need be, actually make a appeal on staff's decision of the short-term rental. The permits will be approved for the appropriate zones you see there, the R, PD, and C1 zones. Of course, there'll be a business license requirement in addition to the short-term rental license permit, so there'll be 2 that would be required. That will include safety inspections, looking at parking, making sure there's no noise ordinances are presented and that type of thing, so everyone using these are aware of the rules and everyone's treated fairly. Moving on, we had some additional requirements. These are only for overnight guest accommodations, so we're not using them for special events or parties, weddings, that kind of thing. They're only for residential dwellings, limits of 3 guests per bedroom. And we did make a late revision to the ordinance, which will also be reflected in second reading, and that is to allow any entity up to 4 of the short-term rental properties. So we originally had said 2. I think at the pre-agenda meeting we had mentioned 2. So we have now updated that to 4 short-term rentals allowed per entity. The business permit maximums at 30 per year. Again, we average around 11 to 13. This year we have, I believe, 2 or 3 that we have approved. And these can be revoked if there are bad actors, someone who's causing disturbance or a problem neighborhood. We can revoke the permit. And those 30 are our first come, first served basis. The permit application fee we're requesting is $100, which is the same fee as a special use permit or what our previous short-term rentals have used. And also just a point of clarity, because I know this has been a little bit confusing, but any operating short-term rental today is grandfathered in. So this is only impacting new permits that would be coming in once the ordinance is approved. And then here is just a map. It's just showing where all the different locations that you've approved of the different short-term rentals, which is kind of interesting to see the concentration primarily around the downtown core, but we do have a few outliers on the other sides of the community. And I believe with that is what we have to present today, so we are available for any questions. Planning Commission looked at it too, and they voted to recommend approval. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Thank you, Ben. Yes, Alan.
just real quick, the Senate was supposed to make a ruling on this, I think about a year and a half ago, and no ruling was made. It's my understanding the Senate's going to be coming back possibly next year. If they do an update, we will update our ordinance or regs also if approved. But again, I didn't know if you want to talk on that a little bit, Ben, but again, if they set us, a law, we will make sure that we meet that standard.
Thank you. Yep.
So directors, comments or questions for Ben?
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Lisa.
So I know this is just the first reading, but I do want to inform people. I did get some communication from the Publicly Policy Associate for the Government Affairs for Airbnb in Arkansas. Do you mind passing that? I haven't got to speak with them, but I do want to read their email to the, so it's noted. So it says, my name is Joey Plans. I hope I didn't mispronounce his name. And I handle government affairs for Airbnb in Arkansas. I was watching the most recent commission meeting and noticed the discussion regarding the city's proposed STR ordinances. While we have remained neutral on the proposed ordinance as of now, I was hoping to speak with you in the near future on some of the points you have raised on the ordinance. My schedule and his schedule has not been able to line up, but I wanted to give directors a copy of this because it has his phone number on it, and I know Mindy has said in the past, have them reach out to us, and then I'd prefer you reach out to them, and then instead of telling their voice doesn't matter unless they reach out to all of us, because it does matter, even if they only reach out to one of us. And so it says specifically, I wanted to underscore the discussion on how the free market helps regulate not only the amount of STRs in the area, but also the destiny of those units as well. Across the world, we have seen the hosts themselves have been able to effectively cap the amounts of STRs due to their daily average rate versus a number set in code. If the number of STR increases higher than the demands for STR, hosts tend to either upgrade their house, which increases property value, or simply take it off the market and convert it to long-term, since they are not afford to pay their bills. Additionally, I'm hoping there will be some flexibility towards allowing owners to obtain more than 2, and Alan has reached out to staff, and that's been increased to 4, STR permits if there are open permits available for a calendar year. Short-term rentals grant residents the opportunity to compete in the hospitality industry that has been historically inaccessible for those unable to build a hotel or motels. In the proposed ordinance, the city will still have the ability to deny a permit if the density of STRs increase in one area. If the board is open to feedback in lieu of the prohibition of more than 2 licenses, changes could be made to Section A6D that would allow for denial of a permit if there is a history of zoning or code violations at a specific property, or if the owner of the property has received violations on any other STRs they have obtained a license for. This would ensure that if someone operates 2 STRs without any issues, they can be afforded the opportunity to expand, which would ensure your hosts are being good stewards of the neighborhood. Regarding those 2 items above, I do want to clarify. The city's approach to limiting licensing per year and not in totality is a revolutionary new approach. If the ordinance does pass, as it currently is written, I would love to work with you and city staff to see the impact of the ordinance and hopefully use this concept to help cities like Fayetteville, Hot Springs, Bella Vista manage their growth in a more flexible way. If you have time in the coming week, I would love to speak with you more in depth on this proposal and hopefully work with you all to ensure that Siloam Springs is a leading example of how to address STRs fairly and using concrete data rather than knee-jerking reactions. Please let me know if you have any availability for a call, and I look forward to speaking with you. I also want to remind you, back in the summer, I also did speak regarding Senate Bill 197. And in that bill, it says, Arkansans have a constitutional right to use their property without intrusion by the government. Short-term rentals are vital to the tourism and marketability of the state, and local governments often hold back tourism and to use their property as they see fit. And I want to clarify before I move forward, I used to have an Airbnb in Siloam. We sold that property this last summer, so I have every right to vote on this, and I have every right to stand on this. And yes, I have contacted the senators, and I have contacted the representatives, and I will continue, because I feel like this is private property rights. I believe in less government. I believe that we should use facts to make an ordinance. I haven't been presented with any facts that say, yes, this is what has happened in other cities, and I don't want to be like other cities. We're unique. Siloam is a unique community for a reason. But I want facts. I want you to show me where Fayetteville has had this issue. I want you to show me where's Hot Springs. I want the data. I don't want personal feelings. I want data. And another point that I brought up to City Administrator Allen, if I have multiple properties in Siloam, and I have 10 rentals, and we're always talking about how do we bring revenue to Siloam? How do we bring more of it here? Tourism is a great way to bring more revenue here, so we don't have to increase our utilities, so we don't have to pull it from our citizens. And whenever you limit me to 2 or 4, and I have 15 properties and I'm maintaining those properties, first of all, when he says across the world, we have seen that hosts themselves have been able to effectively cap them out of STRs. Because if they're operating in the red, they're not going to have it as an STR any longer. They're going to have it as a long-term rental. So if you're limiting me and say I have 10 properties and you're limiting me on 2 or 4, you just lost my revenue because you're forcing me to take it to a long-term rental, which you don't get. The only property, you'll get my property tax. you lose out on that tourism tax. And the whole idea was to bring taxes here. And so we just bit ourselves by putting a cap on it. And like they said, and I would like to see their data, because Airbnb would have the data, is I forgot even where I was going to go. But I just think there's a time and place for rules. Private property rights is not one of them. Yes, we need rules for speeding. And control growth, but not on individual property rights. And so I wish we would look at this and look at it as from the tourism. We keep saying we want to bring revenue in. It was brought in, and now we're trying to cap it. And so I wish we'd have more discussion on this.
Thank you, Lisa. Anyone else? Directors? David?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have any Airbnbs. I don't have any rental property whatsoever, so no conflict of interest. I look at this originally was addressed to collect tax revenue that the city had not been collecting. And it was good. It was a very good thing that we did something that had been overlooked in the past. But to compare us to Bella Vista or Hot Springs is not a real apples to apples comparison, in my opinion. And anyone who tries to say that Siloam is a destination city like either of those two is not being realistic. I don't think there's any reason to limit a number of Airbnbs, STRs to anyone. Simply because I don't believe, if you looked at it from another perspective, that we would limit a person on owning any other kind of business. We have 2 Taco Bells. Are we going to put a rule that we can't have more than those 2 Taco Bells? No matter how big Siloam gets, not going to do it. Because that's about what you're comparing this to. This is a business for people, and to limit that, you're taking away their freedom and their right. Getting beyond the same type of business, are we going to limit and say someone cannot own 5 different businesses or 2 different businesses or however, because they're all owned by the same person? I think it's very similar on looking at it from that perspective. So just to pull a number out of the sky and say, yep, this is the number we're going to do. It's not a problem right now. It doesn't sound like it's going to become a problem anytime soon. And really, what is the definition of a problem? I think this board needs to define that. And so far, we have not. So I don't support this as it's written now regarding the limitation on number.
Thank you, David. Anyone else? Carol?
Yes. Can someone tell me why we put that limit on here?
Well, it was 2. Remember?
I mean, why did we do that? There you are. You were behind the podium.
I was hiding. So as Director Hunt pointed out also earlier, there was a 64 limit that was on the original ordinance. That was representing 1% of the housing stock. So that figure seemed fair to say that, you know, we'll allow 1% of our housing stock for short-term rentals. So, but in the light of trying to be more flexible, more business-friendly, we thought, well, don't put an absolute cap, but just allow 30 per year. So what that does, if you do double 30, you get 60. And that's roughly, 1% every 2 years, which is on pace with the housing growth, roughly. So that's where that 25, it was 25 actually originally, but then we moved it up to 30. So to answer your question, that's where that number came
I
from.
think there's two limits, though. You've got the limit to how many you can own, and then the limit to how many Siloam can have.
Correct.
So which question were you
Well,
asking?
to both. Why do we
Okay.
have a limit to, what is that significant
What
of?
What's the limit, the reason for the limit for the 2 to 4?
Right. Again, that was to prevent, and this was found in many other ordinances, prevent companies or someone from buying up many different houses in a neighborhood and just converting them over to businesses. Because if you get too high of a concentration of that, you start losing a neighborhood identity because there aren't really residents there anymore. It's just people coming and going that are visitors. And so we're trying to sort of protect that by limiting individual, or not really individuals, but larger companies from coming in and buying up many houses at once and converting them over.
And you haven't had any short-term rental owners questioning this?
We had a few comments, but they were positive. None of them were considered concerned about it.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
are you
I'm
done?
done.
So if the concern is that the neighborhood context would sort of be affected if one person came in and sort of bought up a neighborhood, rather than limiting a person from buying more than 4, if there needs to be some sort of limitation, could it be based on location? Like you couldn't buy, Megan has an answer for that, you couldn't, if there has to be a limitation at all, there couldn't be more than 4 in one particular neighborhood, if that's the issue. I do think the very fact that it was brought to the House, this idea of not allowing local governments to have any say over how many Airbnbs there were, makes me think it has been an issue for some people, and it will be an issue, and it will likely come back. So we may be doing a lot that we just have to change in a few months.
It could very well be. They're right.
But,
Yeah.
Madam Mayor, and putting people through a lot, because it's a big process. It's a long process, and I went through it to get an Airbnb, and it doesn't make sense. If you're worried about a high concentration area of one company, I can create multiple LLCs. I have multiple LLCs, and I can just keep buying 2 houses or 4 or whatever you tell me the guidelines are, and I keep creating LLCs. It's not logical. And to operate in the red, you're saying in a concentration area, nobody's going to buy 30 houses in a neighborhood and try to have them rented every day. It doesn't make sense. It's not good business practice. Nobody's going to operate in the red. They want to be in the black. And the way they're going to be in the black is maintaining that property and being competitive. But you know what that does for us? That brings in revenue. It brings in tax dollars to our community. And we're forgetting to look at the tourism part of it.
Did Megan have something to say regarding my question about the concentration?
Mike.
I was just gonna say that Ben pointed out that we didn't want it concentrated in one area, but that was one reason for it. The other reason was because we did the cap at 30. We're nowhere near that cap now, but in the future, we did have last year, we were getting swarmed with short-term rentals, and that's why we're bringing this code amendment forward, is so we don't have to go through that whole special use process and take 2 months to get a short-term rental approved. So we're trying to make it easier, and that's why we've gotten good feedback on this. But the reason for the cap was what Ben said, and also that because we're doing the 30 cap per year, when we do get a year where we get swarmed like we did last year, because this is kind of the whole reason we're doing this code amendment, was because of last year, how many short-term rentals we got coming through last year, which I think we hit about 14 last year, so we were about halfway to that cap that we're at for yearly now. But the reason for that is because if you have a 30 cap and you have a business who comes in and they want to, like Rissler said, they want to buy up a bunch of homes, a bunch of properties for that whole year, and they eat into your cap for that 30, well, now only 15 other individuals in the whole city can come in and get a short-term rental because that one business took up all the spots. Does that make sense for the year?
Yeah.
But I just that was just another reason. That's not the full reason, but obviously
You want other
that's just one
people-
of the many reasons for it.
You want other people to have the opportunity,
Yeah,
as opposed to one
it
person.
keeps corporations from taking away our citizens, our local citizens who have homes and they just want to, you know, maybe they have family in town and they just want to buy a house so that they can come visit on the holidays, and every other time during the year they want to rent it out at a short-term rental. They can do that, and it's not just these entities and corporations coming up and buying up areas in our town and making it to where our residents in the future can't be part of those spots. Does that make sense? That was one thing that we had considered when we had first thought about the cap on entities, was trying to make sure that we kept those spots reserved for our local citizens, or for people who do want to buy homes or who grew up in homes here, that want to maintain their childhood homes but also live elsewhere, and want to use short-term rentals for those. So that's just kind of the things that we thought about with that. So just consider that.
Was it current short-term rental owners that you've received positive feedback?
Yes.
I guess
one
thing,
of
the cap limits the competition.
Well, one of our the individuals who gave us positive feedback is one of the individuals who came through last year and submitted several short-term rentals to us, and we did mention the cap to him on entities, and he didn't seem to have an issue with that. And like I said, he came through probably last year and submitted about 4 different ones, just him.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I have heard from some of these short-term rental people, and because we're part of that world, and we do it in Oklahoma. We don't do it in Arkansas, so like I said, I have every right to vote. But there's nothing preventing a company from creating multiple LLCs. That's why it doesn't make sense. This whole ordinance does not make sense. It's just taking control of people's private property is all it's doing. And because there's ways around this ordinance. I guarantee you, if you're in business, you're not going to buy 30. You got to think of it from a business sense. Who's going to invest money into a community when we would be making money? The community would be making money from tourism if we don't cap these people, because they're going to find a workaround. Trust me, businesses find a workaround, and there's nothing we can do about it. And so I think we're just, and like I said, I'm going to stay on with the senators and representatives, because I think that we're delving into personal private property.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, David.
I, as long as I can remember, have believed fully in economics, both micro as well as the macro picture. And I think a market is going to take care of itself on this. The letter from the gentleman that works for Airbnb for the state of Arkansas, I think, makes a lot of really good points about the free market being self-regulated on this type of thing. If people are losing money, or if they're not able to keep their Airbnb filled the majority of the time, they're going to either move in or sell it. And as a large company that could come in and buy a neighborhood, number one, I don't see a problem with that. If a large company comes in and buys 12 homes that are all in the neighborhood, number one, they're going to take care of them. They're not going to let them run down. Whereas if you have 12 individual homes, you have 12 individual families, of which some of them may keep their homes up, some of them may not. But a company is going to make sure all those homes look nice. If they start losing money, then they will start to sell the homes and get out of the market, at least on some of them, until they are profitable again. I saw what kind of nonsense, because I thought the very same thing, is that if there's a concern about one company doing this, somebody just go create another company. It's that simple. I know for a fact we have neighborhoods that are built and still owned by realty companies outside of town. Not necessarily realty, they're in realty, but they're also in management. The duplexes that are off of Dogwood, my daughter used to rent one, and the majority of that neighborhood is owned by this company that does the leasing. And they're the ones who built them, and so we don't have a problem with that. And that is residential, that is renting which many people do now instead of buying a home. But what is the difference in worrying about a large company buying homes for short-term rental versus a large company buying or building and then leasing out an entire neighborhood? It's really 6 of one, half dozen of the other to me. This is one of a multiple of times that I have heard since I've been back on 3 years ago that we're doing this because somebody's worried that this is going to happen. I've heard that term worried on other ordinances, that we're going to do this to prevent something because we're worried. I appreciate staff wanting to be proactive and try to prevent a problem, but until it becomes a problem, I'm not too sure it's something that we need to be trying to regulate.
Madam Mayor.
And I do believe that there are people in the audience who wish to speak on this as well.
Yeah. Ken?
David, I have a question on something you said earlier. I know you said you were against this. I guess to me, I think it's something that needs more discussion. And this is just an observation. I see both sides, and both sides can make valid arguments. But as an observation, I have seen and heard numerous comments of people wanting to move to Siloam for jobs and are not able to find housing. So while I can agree with one side, I can agree with the other as well, as we are removing opportunities for people to, and I don't see this as just a entertainment or a hospitality tax issue. I see it bigger than that. People, I guess if you play this out, would just not be able to move to town because there would not be anything available because we have an overabundance of Airbnbs. I'm not going to argue that point, whether I'm for or against that. I just think maybe, in my mind, we just need to discuss it a little bit further and make sure we're looking at both sides before we cut the cord one way or the other. So I guess I would have to talk to Alan or staff if a tabling would be beneficial, then I'm going to ask to table it. If it's not, I don't know. I'm just...
Alan?
Personally, I think we need... I'm sorry. No, I just was going to say, I would like to hear more discussion before we vote it up or down.
Alan?
That's something we do. We can table it tonight, bring it back, possibly a pre-agenda in a meeting where we just set that as our discussion topic. Find out what the pleasure of the board is, and if they have a number, or, if I'm hearing different things, unlimited is the number 8, 9, 10, 15. Is the issue the 30? Is the issue the 4? So I agree. We need more discussion.
I just see that there's probably some very good points within this ordinance that we need to keep, while there are some other things maybe we need to not keep or make an adjustment. So if everybody would be agreeable to that, I just ask that we table this.
Would you like to make a motion to table?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I would like to...
From the public
I would
first.
too, if that's possible.
Well,
I wonder if we don't need a workshop, like an hour workshop before the board meeting that would invite Airbnb owners to also attend.
Because I have heard the dangling carrot was, well, we're going to streamline the process. Well, that's a dangling carrot because you're streamlining the process, but you're still making some stricter rules. So we're dangling a carrot. And yeah, you're going to hear positive feedback. You're dangling a carrot, And so I think we're not getting to the meat of it with the people.
Before we make any decisions, are there any owners here that would like to speak?
So, yeah, go ahead and come on.
Good evening, Merry Christmas. My name's Todd Barnardo, 507 North Madison Street, and I appreciate you guys having this discussion. This is really good. I'm so glad to see so much discussion about this because there needs to be a lot more discussion. I had the privilege of meeting with the city regarding this issue. Before I do that, do you mind throwing those slides up there, Chris, if you were able to get those on? So to give some credibility to who I am and what I do, I'm a realtor, I'm a contractor, and we also have a hospitality management business where we help owners manage their short-term rental properties. I've got over 242, this was taken a while ago, 242 reviews on Airbnb alone. That doesn't count VRBO, doesn't count dozens of VRBO bookings, dozens of personal bookings off the platform and that kind of thing. So just to give some credibility to what we do, I was going to bring up the SB 197 bill. I'm glad that came up because, again, I've got a screenshot of that in there. The whole purpose of it is that this really does infringe on property owners' rights. The next slide I have is a picture of Seth and Bailey Long. That's Bailey on the bottom left. That's their 1.5-year-old warden, and that's Seth in the middle. I helped them buy their house at 504 East Franklin as a realtor back in 2018, February 2018. And when they bought that house, they bought that assuming that they would have a certain package of rights as homeowners to where they could, as the bill said, do what they want with their property. Well, they're both graduates of JBU, and they actually moved to Ethiopia as missionaries a couple years ago. And when they did, they rented out their home as a long-term rental. Well, while they were overseas, they got pregnant and wanted to come home and have their baby. Well, unfortunately, they had long-term leased their house to someone, and so they actually needed a place to stay, couldn't find one. I helped them in some short-term housing, and we ended up actually renting our personal home to them because, they didn't want to break the lease that they had. They actually had warden in our home at 217 East Benton. And anyways, now they just left this past Sunday to go back to Ethiopia. Well, Bailey's pregnant again, and they want to come home and have their child in their home. That's their intentions to do so. So short-term rental makes perfect sense for them versus long-term rental. And I would love to get some data from staff and others as to who are the 34, 40, however many we have now, short-term rental owners, because I helped several of them manage their properties, and I don't have anyone that has more than one. Most of them, they were long-term rentals that they then converted to short-term rentals. But the reason why I'm here really is to ask, I love what you said about the dangling carrot, because there are some great things about the proposed amendment. The current process is way too elaborate for people. I mean, it's very expensive. You have to hire someone to draft letters and make sure they're posted. That costs several $100s. And really the biggest issue with the current process is the time it takes. So for instance, 2 weeks ago, I contacted city staff to determine, hey, what should we do about this? They want to rent their home out between now and May. And in order to do that, we would have to submit a process for a current short-term rental permit. And that permit wouldn't be approved until like February 15th or something. So it's not 2 months, it's really 3 months. And it's a lot of work to get that done. And so while I love the fact that it's going to city staff and it's going to be quicker, I mean, I think that's fantastic. I don't like, that it's a little more restrictive in a lot of ways. What I would propose that we do, I think the workshop idea is a great idea. I think there needs to be a lot more discussion about this. I love what you say about, it's going to come back up when it goes to the Senate, and all of this is going to be a big waste of time. And I would propose that most of what we've done so far has been a big waste of time. We've not turned down a single permit that anyone's asked for. I do think it's great that we're collecting taxes. That's important. I get that. But I would like to propose that while we sort this out, we put a moratorium on requiring, because they went to apply for a short-term rental permit, and they were basically told, well, this is sort of up in the air, so we're not really sure what to do yet, whether you should apply or not apply. And so I think, they're a great example. One of the other properties I manage is for the Cooks on 617 South Maxwell, and they've been missionaries over in India for the last 7 years. They just came home from the mission field and are home now. So now they're back in their home that they own, that I've helped them manage as a short-term rental for the time being, but now they no longer need a permit. They're back home. And so we've got, I think of the 30 or 40 that we have, I know there's at least several that are missionary families or ministry families who, You know, Siloam Springs, it's Siloam, it means sent. This has always been a town where people come, you know, it was founded on, you know, the healing water. They come, they stay, they enjoy it, and they leave. And there's a lot of people that come back to Siloam Springs. They have fond memories of the place because of JBU, lots of things, but they want a place to stay. And the reality is people don't want to stay in hotels anymore. I would ask each of you, the last time you traveled, did you stay in a hotel or did you stay in an Airbnb? You know, it's just the way it is. It's just the day and age we live in. People want to stay in homes. And then the other question I would like to ask too is, does the H1 historic district overlay, does that play into any of this? Because I know there's some different rules for that. I know most of them are concentrated in that area.
So I think those kind of questions are what we are really looking at trying to answer.
Yeah.
And that discussion, whenever we move forward and either to a workshop or whatever direction we go. So I think what you're saying is absolutely what we're looking to do. So I appreciate that input.
Thank you. And I'd be glad to be here for that and answer questions. And if you guys have more questions about me and how it works or what we do, I'd be glad to answer any of that. But I would really like to ask that while we're sorting this out, we allow some sort of temporary special use permit where they can do an application, they can pay a fee, but they can't be, you know, they can't afford, the Longs can't afford to not rent their property out between now and May. It just doesn't work with their budget. So
that's something that administrator will get with staff on and get back with the directors. Thank you, Todd. Okay, so we have a motion to table. No? Oh, yes, sir. I didn't realize you would like to speak. Come forward. Name and address.
James McGuirk, 412 West University Street. And I have a question for everybody. If I were to buy 25 homes in Siloam Springs, why is it the planning department's business what I do with them? If I rent them, I have to take care of them, I have to do maintenance on them and all this other stuff. I don't think it's anybody's business how many properties I own, let alone the planning department. You're making rules for these people, and they're not logical, I don't think. So I'm totally against the whole thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
It would be involving planning if someone was going to attempt to do something different than what the home was already originally, but that's really the regulatory.
Or zoning issues.
Yeah.
So Alan, do you have something?
No, we have a motion on the floor. If there's not any more, we'll have a lot of discussion. We'll find a number and try to do what's best for our citizens.
Okay.
Ken made a motion to table, so do I have a second for that?
How long is the table?
What, do you want us to set a date for that, or you want to?
I was actually looking at the calendar. Our next meeting is the 19th, but I don't think that gives us enough time to get everybody notified, so I'm trying to work it out in January. We put out proper notification. I really like Director Allen's. We can do a workshop if we have to, you know, come in at 4:30, whatever we can do to give enough time.
Why don't we say indefinitely to the point where you decide, because it may not work until the second January meeting.
Right.
May not work till the first February meeting. So
we'll just say that we'll table it until time for information and the facts that you need to get together to bring back, and then you'll schedule that with this board.
Correct. I will get with you a pre-agenda, or I'll have you a definite answer on the 19th. We'll set a date, make sure enough information goes out, especially around the holidays. It gets really hard.
Can we be specific that we will have a workshop? I would like to have a workshop.
I think a workshop is what they're looking at, so.
Yes, and with the 19th really doesn't work either, Director, just because we're going to be at the library because everything's going to be renovated.
Oh, I
with
think
the sound
after the
system.
first of the year is
Yes,
fine
ma'am.
it needs
for
to
me.
either be the second January or the first February.
I'll be happy to do it.
Thank you. So, I have a motion to table. Do I have a second? David has seconded. Do a roll call.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Motion to table is approved. Next is ordinance 23-32, first reading, amending City Code Section 70-3, discharge of firearms or weapons.
Madam Mayor, members of the board, Scott Miller, interim police chief, Siloam Springs Police Department. Before you is a proposal recommending the amending City Code Section 70-3, discharge of firearms and weapons. Staff proposal recommends amending the language to clarify for exceptions of the discharge of a firearm or weapons in the lawful defense of one's property or by a certified law enforcement officer during the course of their duties. And staff will be available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Directors, comments or questions? Anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 23-32? If there is not, directors, do I have a motion to place ordinance 23-32 on its first reading, suspending the rules, reading by title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Allen.
Ordinance 23-32, an ordinance amending section 70-3, the Siloam Springs Code with respect to discharge of firearms within the city limits.
Thank you. Next is ordinance M, ordinance 23-33, first reading, amending City Municipal Code, Chapter Limit Definition. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Megan Thomas, Planner 1. This is the first reading of a code amendment to Chapter 54, the Municipal Code, amending the definition of a significant development project. So just a little background on what triggered this code amendment. In 2019, the Board of Directors approved a code amendment that amended the definition of significant development projects to include industrial and institutional developments. Since that time, staff has found that the revised definition failed to take into consideration certain public use projects such as airport hangars, public parks, and other public use facilities that may not require the same review criteria as a typical industrial or institutional development. Therefore, staff is requesting to amend the definition of a significant development to accommodate for these types of public use projects. However, it should be noted that this amendment will not exempt all public use structures entirely. Only proposals meeting the criteria outlined in Section A and B on the screen will be exempt from the significant development review requirement. Public use proposals that are exempt from the significant development requirements will instead be reviewed through a building permit review process. With that said, staff is available for any questions that y'all may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. Directors, comments or questions? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would like to address ordinance 23-33? Yes, sir.
James McWork, 412 University Street. If I'm reading this right, you're going to let people store equipment and stuff in the hangar at the airport? Is that what I'm reading here?
Megan?
It's large equipment in the definition, so a airplane would be considered large equipment as equipment that's used for the airport functioning business.
So a motor home can't be stored at an airport in a hangar. That's a federal law. I can prove everything I say. I want to know what FAR that the city runs this airport under. Do we know?
I'm sorry, I was looking for James, who runs our airport, to get you an answer.
He was here. He was here earlier.
I believe they've both left, but we'll check and see.
Okay, so this isn't going to be passed or anything at this time?
No, this is just the first reading.
Thank you.
And we will get that answer for you. Anyone else in the audience?
This is the first reading, James, so it's got 2 more readings.
So, directors, I would ask then, do I have a motion to place ordinance 23-33 on its first reading, suspending the rules, reading by title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley.
Yes.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Rissler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Allen?
Ordinance number 23-33, an ordinance amending code section 54-11 to revise the definition of a significant project.
Thank you. Next is ordinance 23-34, first reading, vacation of utility easements and alleyway 800 block of East Jefferson Street. Megan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Megan Thomas, Planner 1. This is the first reading of a vacate request for properties located at the 800 block of East Jefferson Street. The applicant is requesting to vacate all existing utility easements on Lot 1R, 2R, and 3R of the Ford's Addition, as well as to vacate the existing 20-foot of alleyway located to the south of those lots. This is the vacation exhibit. Outlined in red are the areas to be vacated, and the 20-foot alleyway proposed to be closed is located here to the south of the 3 lots. It should be noted that this vacation exhibit is combined with a lot consolidation plat, which proposes dedicating new utility easements. This is that consolidation plat. So you can see they're dedicating a new 15-foot utility easement over here to the west, 10-foot to the north, and then 20-foot over there to the east. So to be clear, we are not losing any easements. The reason for the vacation of the easements is essentially to wipe the slate clean, as the property has a long history of deeds and plats which have created the original easements and goes back many, many years, making it very difficult to track. So in an attempt to clear up some of the future confusion with this property, the applicant is requesting to vacate all utility easements and is dedicating the new easements as needed for the development of the lot. And this is the aerial of the site. Staff has received 1 phone call of questioning nature since the publication of the packet, so that wasn't in your memo, just so y'all know. And staff is recommending approval of this request with no needed conditions. Staff is available for any questions that y'all may have. Thank you.
Directors, comments or questions? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to Ordinance 23-34?
Good evening, Chris Bakunis with McClellan Consulting Engineers, 1580 East Stearns, Fayetteville. Representing the owner and happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The directors, do you have any questions? If not, thank you, sir. Appreciate you being here. Do I have a motion then to place Ordinance 23-34 on its first reading, suspending the rules, reading by title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Smiley,
Yes.
Wiles,
Yes.
Hunt,
Yes.
Rissler,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Motion is approved. Alan?
Ordinance number 23-34, an ordinance vacating and abandoning utility easement and right-of-ways at 800 block of East Jefferson Street.
Thank you. Last is Resolution 66-23, significant development permit for the 801 East Lake Francis Drive, Sager Creek Crossing, Phase 2. Ben?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the board. Ben Rhodes, Senior Planner. So before you is a significant development, Resolution 6623 at 801 Lake Francis Drive. This is to construct the second phase of the Sager Creek Crossing Senior Housing Community. It consists of 10 new structures, all fourplex, so there'll be 40 new units. And this will finish out that development. So the first part of the development is just to the south, and this is coming into the north of where the current development is. So this is just a site plan showing the northern part of that proposal. We've got the units on either side and parking out in front, and then some excess parking on the side there. The original phase was short on parking, but they're providing enough parking for this phase, so that's not an issue. And then drainage, like before, is on the east side of the structures. And then we just went a little further south here. So this is the additional units. And then this is the Everett Street that was built as part of phase 1 of the development. And you'll notice some hatching here on the side. That's intentional as a reservation for future right-of-way whenever the land gets developed over to the west, that they'll have a road connection that would logically kind of tie in to Everett. And then, of course, sidewalks do connect around, and we have a dumpster out in the bottom there, bottom left. Here is the landscaping. And then, of course, elevations. These will all match what's currently been built and occupied right now. And then here's the site looking to the north. The only condition we have is that the applicant will need to file a utility easement by separate instrument as directed by the city engineer. That's prior to certificate of occupancy. Staff and planning commission are recommending approval, and we are available for any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Directors, any comments or questions? If not, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on Resolution 66-23? There being none, I would ask for a motion to approve Resolution 66-23.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Wiles.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes?
Whistler.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Carroll.
Yes.
Smiley.
Yes.
Resolution 66-23 is approved. That concludes our scheduled items. We are now moving on to our staff reports. Looks like we have our October financials and the administrator's report. So, Alan?
Madam Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
I usually don't do this, but I would like Chief Miller to come up on the comments were made, public comments were made, where he can kind of clarify some things.
Madam Mayor, members of the board, we just want to clarify some misunderstandings that may have been presented by Mr. Jones earlier this evening. We did have a former officer, Michael Anderson, who resigned from the police department in lieu of termination. Backtracking, what it actually transpired was Mr. Anderson did exchange some inappropriate messages with a confidential informant. The nature of those messages in the context was inappropriate for his position at the time. Then Chief Gilbert reviewed the context of that versus our policies and procedures. There were no laws broken in Michael Anderson's actions at the time. He did, however, violate policy. The decision was made to suspend him and transfer him out of the crime suppression unit into the traffic unit. Subsequently, he spent almost a year in the traffic division on good standings and so on and so forth, and then Chief Gilbert moved him back over to the crime suppression unit, where he continued to work. Earlier this year, the Public Defender's Office submitted an affidavit motion to suppress evidence, is what Mr. Jones has presented you today. At which time I met personally with the prosecuting attorney's office and their division chiefs regarding the motion to dismiss and the allegations that were made in the motion to dismiss. What he was reading you was allegations that a defense attorney made to create doubt in his client's case. We, myself, Lieutenant Fine, and the prosecuting attorney's office went through each one of their claims. We investigated each one of their claims. We did find that some of their claims were substantiated, meaning Officer Anderson did those things, one of which was omit something that occurred via the video dash camera was omitted from his written report. And there was some inconsistencies in some of his report writing. All that being said, Nathan Smith, the prosecuting attorney at the time, felt that there was enough in there to create a credibility issue for Michael Anderson in several cases. And he issued a proffer letter or a Giglio or Brady letter to the defense attorneys and all of the attorneys. That's the grounds that I used when I approached Officer Anderson with termination, in which he resigned in lieu of that termination. The process did not end. I have submitted paperwork to CLEST, which is the Standards and Training Board of the state of Arkansas, to decertify Officer Anderson. That is a long process. They don't even have their first hearing until January. at which time the state board will meet and determine whether or not they feel decertification is warranted based on the facts that we presented to them. If that process goes forward, Michael Anderson will no longer be a certified law enforcement officer and probably will never be able to get a certification again. So we are taking the appropriate actions based on what was discovered during those investigations with myself and the prosecutor's office. And I'm available to answer any other questions that you might have. I need to add also, during that investigation, there was no evidence or anything to substantiate that Michael Anderson planted evidence or conducted any illegal activity. Everything that we found was credibility. It went to his credibility. We couldn't disprove what he was saying, and we couldn't prove what he was saying, other than a few things that did not occur, which could have been clerical errors. It could have been an absence of judgment, but we couldn't determine that either. And there was enough of them to create a level of doubt as to his credibility. And that's why the actions were taken against Michael Anderson. Thank you.
So Chief, just to clarify, the city, you, previous Chief Gilbert, done everything by the book, not a question. And really, this has been put to bed. So,
correct.
You didn't just give the guy a slap on the wrist. You guys did everything you're supposed to do.
Correct. And another clarification, Mr. Jones keeps putting up that the muting of the mics, or that we are suppressing evidence by muting our microphones on our in-car camera systems. That is not always the case. We have a faltering system. It's very old, and it doesn't always work, and things break, so they're not always being muted. There are times when officers do mute their audio recordings, but that is per policy. He is taking the policy out of context. Our policy specifically says that officers should ensure that their audio recording is working when they're performing law enforcement actions. However, it is recommended, it says clearly in there, when practical. He's leaving that part out. Says when practical, they should keep them on when doing enforcement action. There are times and there are exceptions when we need to mute our audio. An example of that would be as a supervisor, if I'm on a call with Director Allen and we are dealing with an issue with Director Allen, but I'm the supervisor and another officer calls me to deal with an issue that Director Rissler is dealing with, I don't need Director Rissler's issue intertwining with Director Allen's issue. So as a supervisor, I would mute that audio while I took that phone call to address this issue with this officer, and then go back to this issue without combining the two issues for everybody to hear. If that helps clarify, just one example of where we would have to mute that audio to ensure privacy of both parties.
Perfect sense.
Anyone else?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. And to reiterate, he's done an outstanding job. He's kept me in the loop. We've worked together with this and followed our policy to the T the best we can. To reiterate what Chief said, there was no criminal activity. We're talking about policy violations. And so I just thought that needed to be addressed to clarify some things. All right, moving on. October financials are in your packet. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Christina. She'll be happy to answer any question you have about the financials. My administrative report have a couple expenditures to report. The first one is $51,020 for a circuit switcher, 72.5K voltage electric. The second one is $39,984. Emergency vehicle preemption equipment, electrical. No resolutions. Just to let you know, the annual Christmas parade was a resounding success. I just want to, did I say that right? It was very successful. Appreciate the mayor and the board members being there. our numbers are drawing, I think it drew over 11,000 people. And it was just great job by the staff. It just takes so much work from the planning to the start to the finish. It was really great when the mayor started her speech and the snow started going, just to hear those kids go, you know, and the best one was I saw Director Rissler come around, and she was in costume, and she was tired. She pointed at me, I can't do that. She was tired. She was at the end of it, but really a good time. I really enjoyed that. So thanks to everyone that participated, and again, it's an 8% increase of participation from last year. The second thing to report, our regular scheduled board meeting, we will make sure we've already started sending out information that our board meeting will be moved to the library on December 19th. So again, if you can attend, we will not be here. We will do renovation for the sound system starting around the 14th and hopefully be completed right around the Christmas holiday, so we shouldn't have any disruption with anything else going forward. The Utility Commissioner Joey Wiggins' term expired December 31st. We're also advertising. We'll be going out for soliciting applications. Also want to congratulate Ben Rhodes. I think it was Monday. Yeah, it was Friday. I'm sorry, last Friday. I've missed some days there. 20 years of service past Friday. So congratulations on 20 years.
Congratulations.
Also, if you, late yesterday, I don't know if I got a chance to tell the board, we had a crossing guard at Mount Olive in Whitlock and struck by a vehicle. He's had hip surgery today, nothing life-threatening, so please keep him in your prayers. I see him every day. I had just went through there going to do a check, and then Chief was calling me about 10 minutes later, and he was struck. And again, we need drivers to pay attention. There was actually an officer sitting at the gas station I waved, and he was watching everything that happened. So again, just keep him in your prayers if you would. Huh?
Woman, it's not a he, it's a lady.
Well, I apologize. I saw a man standing out there. Must have been the second crossing. So they have two. So again, keep them in your prayers, or keep her in your prayers. Thank you for correcting me. And the last thing I found out today, and I just wanted to let the board know, the city back in September of 2019, the city received a grant for the Main Street project. We have spent, as my understanding, we have spent $143,175. That grant is run out, and we have to ask for an extension. There were some things before I came into this seat where that project was kind of put on hold. That my direction is going to complete that project. We owe another $143,000. If we don't complete the engineering, and Chris will speak on it a little bit, we will have to pay the grant back the $143,000. So if we complete the project, it costs $143,000. If we don't, we have to pay the grant back for $143,175.
Chief, let's just make sure the public knows this is the East Main Street project. This is not Main Street, Siloam Springs.
Yes,
when
sir.
you just say Main Street, some people get mixed up. So
Thank you, sir. And Chris will verify that. That's the East Main project to do with the bridge, the road. And I think we're just going to be finishing up the engineering. And again, a big part of that is where we can even apply for the 100% match grant. If we don't finish the concepts and the engineering, we don't even qualify for the grant. And we have to have this to do that. The money is also already budgeted.
So then I would assume that during the director's reports that you would like a direction from.
The money's already budgeted. I just didn't want to hit you with a surprise. I found out about this today, so I wanted to let you know as soon as I knew, and I just think it's the best move for the city. Instead of just paying money back, let's go ahead. Even if we don't get the grant, we still have that to do the project at another time if we get another grant.
So
that
you
comes
just,
available.
you just are going to go ahead and ask for the extension is what I'm assuming. That's right. Okay.
Yes, and by nod, if everybody approves, or if there's any issues, please let me know. I'll be
You're,
glad.
you're
to
just
listen.
finishing the project, that's
Right.
the engineering, everything.
Yes, sir. And with that project, we've made, I think last time we've talked about this before I was here, the roundabouts and that, those have been taken into account where they would be removed and.
But the bridge was not in the original, so the bridge has been added, right?
Chris, can you just?
I mean, the bridge, at the beginning.
The bridge has not been added. Director Paxton, or excuse me, Director of Community Development, Chris Paxton. The bridge has not been added at this time. We are looking at adding that to the contract in the future. However, as of right now, and I apologize, Kevin's better at speaking on this specific issue than I have because it's been going on for a while, but I have been in a little bit of contact with Kevin on this. As of right now, the recommendation is going to be the full rebuild with no roundabout. About the bridge, we would like to add that to the contract, but that would go before the board when we have a contract ready, not at this point. It's not ready at this point. So that's part of the reason why we need we would need some additional extension time. Of course, the board had previous discussions of this back in late August, early September. The majority of the board didn't wish to continue with the design at that time, with considerations of the bridge and considerations of that roundabout. So right now we're looking at moving forward with the standard design and to have additional time where when we get to the construction phase, we'll be looking at additional grant opportunities for that also. But as of right now, this is just that engineering phase, and with some of the delays and looking at some of those different options with and without the roundabout, the board kind of expressed those particular changes that they would like to see, and it has led us to this point where we need that extension.
I apologize. Kevin had something come up and couldn't be here, so around 4 o'clock I talked to Chris and said, hey, you need to find out where we can get the information out and get it to you.
Madam Mayor, I do have a question about that project. And I'm sorry you just said that Kevin has more information, so I'm sorry for putting you on the spot. We're talking about the preliminary work that they were doing on this, the engineering firm. And I know we saw a couple of different designs, one with the roundabout and one without. So I'm wondering, kind of two questions. What else are we expecting from them? And is that contract that we had with them locked in at a certain price so that we won't be paying more than the I think the cost, the total cost was about $260,000. So have they only done $130,000 worth of work? Is that what we're saying? Or there's $130,000 more worth of work, and so we're going to get more deliverables?
If I may, finding out today, my plan is to go ahead and ask for the extension to even get that started, and hopefully that'll be approved next Wednesday at the pre-agenda meeting. Hopefully I can answer these Kevins.
Okay.
Kevin will be present unless you want to jump in there, Chris, and we'll be able to answer a lot of those, because I think there was actually, I'd like Christina to be there to talk about the financials, because when all this is going on, she was actually in the seat.
Because they did quite a bit. They had 2 or 3 public meetings. They came up with, that's what I'm remembering. They came up with some conceptual designs, and
some of those designs were different options had, and I wasn't a part of those conversations earlier on.
One had roundabout, one didn't, and
one without, and those were considered options. I think one of the things that kind of threw a wrench into the spinner on that was we had a discussion about the bridge and how that may impact the overall project. Would we hold off on those specific areas, or would we?
I don't think the bridge was ever part of the original design.
No, not on the original
Okay.
design. It's just since it came into that conversation, so there were a little bit of delays to give directive to Kraft and Tolan Associates And we were looking back and forth with Craft and Toll and Associates on how far they should go, and I think that has just resulted in a need for the extension. As far as the specific amounts, I can't speak to the specific amounts, if it would change the total, if there would be change order requirements, but we can get that information to the board as soon as we have it.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you.
Kind of odd, because I would have thought when we got the grant, and I didn't know that we were required to spend our money first and then to get the remaining money. It's kind of an odd thing. I would have thought it would have been part and parcel, you know.
Right, and I actually thought the same when I talked to Christina today. You know, it's a 50-50 grant, and they said, yeah, we'd have to pay it, and I said, we spent it, and that's the money we spent. But you know, I will confirm. My big thing tonight is make sure we get this extension, where I would hate just to have to pay back and not get anything out of it.
Well, we need to know what has not been done on the work, because I thought it's not McClellan. Who is it? I thought they had done all
Craft
the work.
and Toll.
Craft and Toll.
That's what I was.
I thought that they had done it all. I thought all the money had been spent, or at least close to it, and it was simply a matter of which option. And when we were talking about the bridge, we were saying, well, yeah, if we're going to add the bridge, we know that's an additional thing, but it's kind of a shocker to learn that we won't get the money if we don't. I'm kind of like catch-22. I'm lost as to why. I mean, what has been spent so far, and what has it been spent for?
Right.
And was it Tom's dollar or Dick's dollar? You know, it's kind of like we don't know.
And I do apologize. I mean, this phone call today was at 5:15.
But you can follow up and let us know.
Yes,
Chief.
sir.
Yeah,
and so again, this is another project that I'm inheriting, and I'll wrap myself around it, and I will get you as much information I can next Wednesday. And if I get anything sooner, I'll be happy to send out an email as soon as I get a chance to sit down with the engineer.
I would add one note. Kevin Moore is actually watching right now, so he was messaging me, and he stated that the bridge was suggested to help to qualify for the RAISE grant. So we're looking at that RAISE grant, and one of the things that we're working on right now with staff is getting letters of support for the RAISE grant. We're working with our new grant coordinator and with some of the other staff to get letters of support to qualify for RAISE grant for the construction portion of the contract. So.
And that's what brought this up too. When Hallie was working on the grant, she let me know the grant came in, and I started asking questions, and I think we started looking into everything that came with the grant. We found out the deadline's coming up, and so that's where we're at. But I will definitely get you something in email, or I will have you something pre-agenda next Wednesday. But all I'm doing right now is basically moving forward, trying to get the extension.
All right.
all I
Thank you
have
very
there.
much. Appreciate that.
And
So-
that's a Walton Family Foundation grant? It's not a state grant?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You are correct.
So with that, we are going to move to our director's reports. And the first thing, I am going to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. I will not be here at the meeting on the 19th. Vice Mayor Allen will be directing that meeting. Thank you very much for that, David. And I want to say the Christmas parade, the lighting of the tree, and all of the downtown, it was amazing. It was beautiful. And I really appreciate the Heritage League and all the work and the time and effort that they put into getting that parade organized and getting everyone involved. All the floats were beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for participating in that. To our staff, who did an amazing job getting this town ready to be lit up. And the crowd was great. They loved it. I've heard several people comment about they just thought it was the best parade ever, and they love the new tree that we've got. And one gentleman was walking by and said, I think, is this a Hallmark movie? I mean, it was, people really enjoyed it. They enjoyed the time and seeing the lights. So it was great. Thank you to everyone that participated and helped with that. And like I said, and Merry Christmas. And with that, we will move to the director's reports. And tonight, David, I am going to ask you to go first.
Okay.
And then Mindy will come around to you, and Carol, you'll go last tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. I am looking forward to the Pool of Siloam getting restarted this year. It's been decades, many decades since it's been. I brought it up to my mom, and she was so excited. She said her women's club, the Entre Nous Fortnightly, was a big sponsor of that back in the day, and so we went every year as kids. It's wonderful hearing Tim and Arthur and Stanley Church talk about painting the. In fact, sadly, Pastor Tim tore some ligaments or something falling down the hillside, clearing brush, for the Pool of Siloam. So, he needs your prayers on healing. But it's going to be a nice thing, and it's going to be something that we can put back in the roster of things for people to look forward to in Siloam. I want to congratulate all of our award recipients on the Siloam Springs Fire Department Award Show. It was really, really nice. It was a great lunch. And Chief Kreiner did a great job. He was awesome speaking and inspiring people, and had two families get up, and he explained their testimony of how our EMTs have saved lives, and it was very touching. And he involved them in presenting some of the awards, and it was just really nice. I was really, really appreciative of being invited. I thank him and the entire FD for putting such a great program together. I want to thank the Boy Scouts for being here tonight. It seems to be a yearly thing that they want to get their badge for citizenship, and I hope they weren't too confused by some things, but I think that they were paying attention, and I'm glad that they were here tonight. Madam Mayor, we will miss you. Thank you for all you do, and you'll be on vacation. We wish you all the best and safe travels and everything. I think that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Mindy?
Okay. Let's see. I'll start with, I do want to thank the staff for trying to be proactive with the things that they bring to us. I appreciate that they anticipate possible problems and try to come up with solutions for those, and I know that's what's going on with the short-term rentals. There's just so many questions around it right now. So I'm glad we decided to do the workshop. I think that will kind of help clarify things for everybody, answer some questions, and then maybe we can make some more informed decisions. Speaking of workshops, I think Tyler Carroll's idea to maybe have a public meeting where we just talk again about the structure of Siloam Springs government, since we are sort of unique in our structure. We've done something, I think, sort of like that before. It doesn't hurt to give reminders. You know, we want to be transparent, so to be transparent with just how we do run our government, I think may be helpful. Congratulations to Ben for his 20 years in Siloam Springs. Wow. That's several years, and I know he's done a lot of work during that time. Mayor Judy already mentioned this, but I also want to take a second to just thank Heritage League, the staff, and all the people who participated in the parade as well as attended the parade. It was a fun day. I know Heritage League started the day with Breakfast with Santa. I don't know what the numbers were this year, but I've heard the last few years they've sold out. So I know it's an especially busy day for Heritage League, so I thank them for what they do. The night before was Mothering Matters Tour of Homes, and that was brought back after 4 years of not having it. So that was fun for everybody. It was a busy, festive weekend. Decorating contest is going on now. If you've decorated your house, you might as well sign up to be in the contest. Just go to Discover Siloam, and I think there's an application there. I don't think the deadline has passed yet. Hopefully not. As Director Allen said, congrats to the Fire Department Award winners. We just appreciate all that you do, Chief Kreiner, and all that your staff do, and it's nice to see them recognized in this way. So thank you. And then just one announcement. Every year, the American Legion puts wreaths on the veterans' graves at Oak Hill Cemetery. And this year, on Friday at 3, and we think at Parks and Rec, they will be assembling the wreaths. And then on Saturday at 9 a.m. at Oak Hill, they'll be placing the wreaths. And I've tried to help with that the last couple of years, and the whole football team has come as well. And so the football team and their parents have been a great help, but they can always use many hands. And so if you're available either one of those days to help with that, that's a nice way to honor our veterans.
Thank you, Mindy. Ken?
Just one thing, and I'll try to be quick. We often talk about on this side of the wall how good our staff is, and there are so many unsung heroes that work for this city, and everybody does a great job and goes above and beyond. But to tag on what David said, and Chief Kreiner, we talked about this Friday, and I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat myself, and you have to listen to it again. But sitting in the banquet and the awards ceremony, it was an amazing experience. So often, and I've commented to my wife numerous times, we'll be sitting at home in the evening watching television, and from all over town, I don't care where you live, you can hear sirens as they go off. And I'm relatively close to Firehouse 1, and it seems like nightly something happens and the sirens are going off. And as a citizen, you just do not understand what is going on and what our firemen and what our police officers go through to do their job. And it was very worthwhile to sit in the audience listening to the stories that were told of how people's lives were literally changed by our fire department. Now, this was a specific day for them. I know the police department does the exact same thing, and I know other departments go above and beyond to serve this community, and they are literally in a life-changing role, and I cannot express my appreciation enough for what everyone does, and even if it seems like it's very minor, very trivial, believe me, it serves a tremendous purpose. And but Chief, I just want to thank you for what you did in organizing that, bringing that about, and for your crew, your firefighters. And I know, Chief Miller, I could say the same thing about your guys. And I just appreciate the invitation. I wish everybody could have been there. It was very moving, and it was a very good thing to see that afternoon, and I want to thank you for that, everyone.
Thank you, Ken. Lisa?
Okay. I'm going to piggyback off of a couple of things that I've said, but Chief Croner, when I was at the event, and I appreciate you inviting directors to that and seeing and being a part of hearing the testimony from the people that were there, it made me think of all the departments, our dispatchers that are sitting behind the phone that you don't realize what they are doing and what pressure they're under to save a life, and the firemen and the police officers and every department. And I love that you do an awards. I don't know. The police department might, I don't know. But the other departments, it made me think about when we have ice storms or when we do the fall and spring pickup. It's so easy to say, thank you, and we get a lot of them, but it made me think to recognize them. And I didn't even think about it until, this weekend and after your ceremony that when we do the fall pickup and do the spring pickup, it's so easy for me to take snacks down because they're putting extra work into their job those couple of weeks that we're doing the spring and fall pickup or the ice storms. Just taking something small by and saying thank you. And because we don't have award ceremonies for every department, but it's something that small that can make a big difference to them. And so, but thank you for putting that together. It was amazing. I do want to ask Cammie, put her on the spot. The pool asylum, so they're going to have it December 10th through the 24th at 6 and 7:15. They're going to have little ceremonies. Is there something special going to go on December 10th for the opening of it? Okay. Oh, okay, I just thought maybe because usually. Okay, I'm excited for it to come back. I'm going to try to attend some of those, and I appreciate Troop 3766 coming, and it's always neat to see Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts get involved and know what's going on in their community, and so, and I guess we'll be here for next meeting, so I'll tell everybody Merry Christmas then. So,
thank you, Lisa. Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to give a shout out concerning the parade. I intentionally took a different look at it. I went through downtown, walked the east side of Broadway, then walked the west side, and went up and we heard the choir sing at 4 o'clock. But I tell you what I saw was a tremendous collaboration with like the Heritage League and Main Street Siloam, the Chamber, and the city. We had like at least 2 or 3 departments were out there. And I looked behind the scenes, and you could see people who were just, almost looked like, they weren't stalkers, but they were there to make sure that when those lights were turned on at 6:06 or whatever time that was, that it happened. And when those lights came on, I just shut my eyes, and you could hear a literal awe. It was a hushed awe, but it spoke so loud. And it was a very brief moment, but it was one that was a culmination of work that, wow, we've been working on for weeks, maybe months. I don't know how long, but to me, that was who Siloam Springs is. And to have that moment come to us, we hear the awe, and then we get to see the parade and finish up. You know, Santa is supposed to be the last one coming out of there, but you had the horses behind him. But what's behind the horses? There was one of the city road trucks out there cleaning everything up. And I thought, that is a good idea. Who thought of that? Probably somebody who has horses. Because instead of having them, whatever the horses may have left, trampled around, we were cleaning it up immediately. And to me, that was a very good sign of who we are and the excellence that we're showing in this community. I'm very proud of who we are. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Reed.
Director, I wish the
Yes.
street sweeper would have came in front of me before I crossed, because, yeah.
And Carol, just one thing, if I could, before you speak. Reed made me think about something, talking about the choir. I hope all of you got to listen to our choir. They are a fantastic bunch of young people. And if you do not know, I would like for this community to show their support for our chamber choir in any way that you can, just by prayers, monetarily. These kids have been invited, as only 3 choirs in the state of Arkansas, to go to New York City and sing in Carnegie Hall under the direction of the guest director that they have invited from the University of Arkansas. It's a great honor and a great privilege. Our citizens should be very proud of these young people and what their director has done with them. She's made these kids believe that they can do it, and they are doing it. They are fantastic. So anytime you get an opportunity to listen to them, to show them that you support them, they do have a concert on December 12th, the high school does, and on December the 14th, the junior high choir has a concert. So, like I said, if you get an opportunity to go listen to them, please do. You can call the high school, talk to their director, who is Juliana Tufts. She can give you information on how you can support these kids. It's an expensive trip, so they've been doing a lot of fundraising. So anything that you can do for them, I know they would appreciate it and their parents would. So just wanted to put that plug in there for those kids.
And before Carol goes, I had forgot to mention this Saturday is I can't remember the anniversary of Dustin's Dream. 12th anniversary of Dustin's Dream Heavenly Birthday. And so that event you can find it online. I'm not sure when it is, but it is Saturday.
Great.
5
Thank you,
o'clock
David.
at Camp Siloam.
5 o'clock, is that what you said?
Camp Siloam.
Okay. Yeah. Cammie, you have some information about that? Come up to the front if you do. No, we need to record you, so.
I messaged him just to ask, and he said, I'm looking for someone to sell hot drinks and or popcorn, etc. So if anyone wants to sell hot drinks and popcorn. He said nothing out of the ordinary. Prelude music 15 minutes prior to start at 6 o'clock and 7:15. It ends with the Hallelujah chorus just like it used to.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Cammie.
Thank you.
And Dustin's Dream is 5:30, not 5, at Camp Siloam.
5:30, Camp Siloam. Dustin's Dream. Perfect. Now, Carol, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. I don't
Finally.
have really a whole lot to say, but we moved here 34 years ago. And the first thing that, the second day that we lived here was the parade. And I came from a larger town, and we just happened to be driving down Main Street, and we didn't even realize there was a parade going to be going on. And we stopped, and we thought, wow, we didn't ever have that going on.
It was for you to move here.
I
what
guess
the
so.
parade
They
was
were
about you.
just congratulating us for moving to Siloam. But it was the most inspirational thing. And I guess that's why I love this season and this community so much, because there is that closeness, I think. But anyway, the parade is always great. The camaraderie in this town is great. And I want to thank Heritage League for putting that parade on. I know that it's a tremendous effort for them, and I think the Santa breakfast is wonderful for our kids. I was walking around today, and I saw where they were starting to put up the Pool of Siloam. Like I said, we moved here 34 years ago, and all I've ever heard is the Pool of Siloam. So now I'll get to see what it looks like. I also want to thank all of the staff for all the work you do to help our board members. Not just tonight, but always. You're always there, available to answer questions, and I don't know if you get enough credit for all you do, but I appreciate it very much. And with that, I move we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Thank you all.